Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
This is my group members for the Viva presentation on company analysis for Dutch lady. In this video, we will share the financial analysis, statistical analysis and technical analysis on the company which is Dutch Lady Milk Industry BERHAD. Dutch Lady Milk Industry BERHAD was founded by a Dutch farmer families in the 1871. The Royal Friesland Campina is the parent company for the Dutch Lady in Asia. In 1975, the company changed their name to the Dutch Baby Industry Malaya BERHAD, and in year 2000 they changed their name to Dutch Lady Milk Industry BERHAD, and it stays till now. The Dutch Lady Milk Industry BERHAD are well known for variety of products such as milk powder, yogurt, milk and even baby formula powder. Before we begin, let me introduce myself. My name is Nur Iniza Syairah Muhammad Saimi. The first ratio is liquidity ratio. In liquidity ratio, there have three ratios, which is current ratio, quick ratio and net working capital ratio. The first one is current ratio. For current ratio, the higher the ratio is the better, and for Dutch Lady Milk Industry, the highest is recorded on 2016, which is 1.20 times, and the lowest is recorded on 2018, which is 0.95 times. For quick ratio, the higher the ratio is the better, and for Dutch Lady, the highest was recorded on 2016, which is 0.88 times, and the lowest is recorded on 2018 and 2020, which is 0.51 times. Next is net working capital. Net working capital works if the positive is better, and for Dutch Lady Milk Industry, the highest is recorded on 2016, which is RM 70,987, and the lowest is recorded on 2018, which is negative RM 13,255. Next is leverage ratio. For leverage ratio, there has debt ratio, debt equity ratio, and time interest earned. For debt ratio, the lower the ratio is the better, and for Dutch Lady, the highest is recorded on 2020, which is 3.77%, and the lowest is recorded on 2016, which is 0.68%. For debt equity ratio, the lower the ratio is the better, and for Dutch Lady Milk Industry, the highest ratio is recorded on 2017, which is 0.16 times, and the lowest was recorded on 2019, which is 0.12 times. For time interest earned, the higher is the better, and the highest for Dutch Lady Milk Industry was recorded on 2019, which is negative 3.0882 times, and the lowest is recorded on 2020, which is negative 5.5892 times. That's all for me. Thank you. And next, I will pass to Akmal Wafi for the next financial analysis.
Hi, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Akmal Wafi bin Saiful Bahari, and today I will present to you about financial ratio, which is activity and profitability ratio. Thank you, Amiza Shahira, for your presentation on liquidity and leverage ratio. Now let's move on to activity ratio. Activity ratio have 5 components, which is inventory turnover, fixed asset turnover, total asset turnover, account receivable turnover, and average collection period. Inventory turnover can define as the higher the ratio is better. For Dutch Lady, the highest is in 2017, which is 5.73 times, while the lowest is in 2020, which is 1.19 times. Moving on to the average collection period, ACP indicates that the lowest is better. The highest for Dutch Lady is in 2020, which is 125 days, while the lowest is in 2016, which is 30 days. Next, total asset turnover indicates that the higher the ratio is better. For Dutch Lady, the highest is in 2017, which is 2.71 times, while the lowest is in 2020, which is 0.6 times. On the other hand, fixed asset turnover also indicates that the higher the ratio is better. The highest for Dutch Lady is in 2016, which is 10.95 times, while the lowest is in 2020, which is 1.99 times. The last one for activity ratio is account receivable turnover. This ratio indicates that higher is better. For Dutch Lady, the highest is in 2016, which is 11.93 times, while the lowest is in 2020, which is 2.87 times. Moving on to the profitability ratio, there are 5 types of ratio, which is gross profit margin, net profit margin, operating profit margin, return on asset, and return on equity. Gross profit margin indicates that higher is better. For Dutch Lady, the highest is in 2016, which is 42.37%, while the lowest is in 2020, which is 29.02%. Next, net profit margin can define as the higher the ratio is better. For Dutch Lady, the highest ratio is in 2016, which is 14.23%, while the lowest is in 2020, which is 3.22%. Operating profit margin also indicates that the higher the ratio is better. Dutch Lady highest is in 2016, which is 19.19%, while the lowest is in 2020, which is 4.53%. Return on asset. Return on asset indicates that the higher the ratio is better. For Dutch Lady, the highest is in 2018, which is 31.98%, while the lowest is in 2020, which is 1.93%. Lastly is return on equity, where this ratio indicates that the higher the ratio is also better. The highest for Dutch Lady is in 2018, which is 122.75%, while the lowest is in 2020, which is 5.37%. Now, I will pass to Ahmad Sharif on statistical analysis. Thank you.
Thank you, Akmal Wafi, for your presentation about financial analysis. My name is Ahmad Sharif Safwan bin Suhaimi, and I'm from JBA 115C. So now we can proceed to statistical analysis. So the first slide is statistical analysis shows the risk and return, beta and alpha correlation coefficient between stock Dutch Lady, Apollo and KLCI. So this section also measures historical and expected rates of return and risks. So the first one is for risk and return analysis, the average return of Dutch Lady and Apollo is above KLCI. So Dutch Lady average return is 0.0212 and for Apollo is 0.0329. So for variance, the larger the variance, the larger the risk. So for the chosen company, variance for both company, which is Dutch Lady and Apollo, is higher than KLCI. So KLCI variance is 0.521 and Dutch Lady variance is 0.9374, while Apollo's variance is the highest, which is 1.8259. So for standard deviation, Dutch Lady standard deviation is higher than KLCI market, and Apollo standard deviation is the highest, which is 1.3513. So we can conclude that Dutch Lady has lower risk compared to Apollo. So we can see from the table that Dutch Lady covariance is lower, which is 0.1794%. So compared to Apollo covariance, which is 0.2529. Moving on to the next slide. Regression for regression analysis, simple regression analysis between Dutch Lady and KLCI shows positive relationship between increase in stock and return on market. So increase in return on stock by 1% could increase in return on market by 0.3443. So 0.443 indicates the beta of the Dutch Lady company. So the coefficient of correlation between Dutch Lady and KLCI is 0.2567%. So this shows Dutch Lady coefficient of correlation is positively correlated between two variables. but it is weak. So coefficient of determination between Dutch Lady and KLCI market is 0.0659. So this indicates that 0.0659% total variation in return on market can be explained by the regression line using the independent variable return on stock. So for P value of Dutch Lady company is 1.4171. So it means that Dutch Lady and KLCI market did not have significant relationship since the P value is more than 5%. So for security market line, we calculate required rate of return of Dutch Lady and Apollo. So we get required rate of return for Dutch Lady is 4.111 and Apollo is 2.8541. Moving on to the next slide, we can see from the graph that Dutch Lady and Apollo is above SML line. So where this shows that the both company is undervalued. So it is because the position on the chart indicates that the security offers a greater return against its inherent risks. So it is a good choice for investor to buy this stock. So for intrinsic analysis, earning per share is 1.2480, and for price earning ratio, it shows that Dutch Lady PE ratio is 29.4872 compared to market price 36.80. So this shows that the company stock is undervalued because market price is higher than PE ratio. Investor is advised to buy this stock due to give profit in future. So next, the dividend payout ratio for Dutch Lady is 0.5122. So for book value of the company, it's lower than market value, which is 2.69. So we can consider that the price of Dutch Lady is overvalued. So that's all for me for statistical analysis, and now we can proceed with Siti Hawa Aisyah for technical analysis. Thank you.
Ahmad Sharif for the compact presentation about statistical analysis. My name is Siti Hawa Aisyah binti Abdul Rahim. I will now share about the technical analysis of Dutch Lady Milk Industries BERHAD. In this comparative analysis, you will see the chart of Dutch Lady versus KLCI and Dutch Lady versus competitors that has been chosen, that is Apollo and Cocoland. According to the graph beside me, KLCI has a moderate uptrend and downtrend starting from the fourth quarter of 2016 to 2020. The price continues to face its major decline index in March 2020, amounting to negative 27.09%, as the government sorted a restrictions movement control order MCO for almost a month, which it has affected the industry to halt, and most of the workers were advised to stay at home. To sum up the performance of stock price in the next graph, Apollo shows a good price performance in the year 2016 compared to Dutch Lady. In the same year, the highest price amount of Apollo stock recorded as 47.67% in March, while Dutch Lady was 36.66% in August. While in this graph, the highest price of stock recorded is 73.55% for Cocoland in June 2017, and for Dutch Lady is 73.03% in May 2018. Moving average smooths the price data to form a trend following indicator. Moving average can be used to identify the direction of the trend. It also smooths out the price and volume fluctuation or noise that can confuse the interpretation. There are actually two types of moving average, that is, simple moving average and exponential moving average. There are two different vertical lines shown in the graph. The first one, green line, that shows investors' sell signal, and the purple line that shows investors' buy signal. When the closing price moves above the moving average line, it is interpreted as bullish signal or buy signal. It is shown by the purple line. While when the closing price moves below the moving average line, it is interpreted as bearish signal or sell signal. When the price line is above moving average and the average move upwards, this confirms the market is in an uptrend, and traders should think about their trades. In conclusion, for future short-term investors, should not invest their money in Dutch Lady, as now the price is expected to decrease in the future, while the current investors is suggested to sell their shares. The graph beside me shows intermediate SMA. The period of intermediate SMA is 5 to 10 years. The price of Dutch Lady Milk Industries BERHAD is moving uptrend. Early 2016 shows the price trend suddenly increase. As I mentioned earlier, when the single SMA line moves below the price, it is bullish. To conclude the intermediate investors, the future investors should invest their money in Dutch Lady Milk Industries BERHAD now, as the price is low and expected to increase in the future. The current investors is suggested to hold their shares because the price is expected to increase. In the next graph shows the long-term SMA. The period of long-term SMA is more than 10 years. For further explanation, I will pass to Nur Nadira Nazri.
Thank you, Hawa, for a brief explanation on the first part of technical analysis. My name is Nur Nadira binti Muhammad Nazri, and I shall now continue with the simple moving average on the long term. As you can see in the graph, the price moved above SMA line from the year of 2009 and 2019, which considered as a bull trend line. A future investor is suggested to buy share at a set price as expected the price to be increased. Meanwhile, current investor is suggested to hold their shares. However, in the year of 2020, the current investor is suggested to sell their share to avoid from major losses. And future investor is suggested to wait until the price reaches its lowest and buy the share price at the cheaper value. It is because the price moving below SMA line, in which considered as a bearish trend line. Therefore, for a short, intermediate and long-term SMA, current investor is suggested to sell their share. Meanwhile, future investor recommended to wait and buy at the lower price. As for this part, I will show you the MACD, RSI, stochastic as well as William R indicator. As you can see, the MACD graph in the slide shows a green and yellow line, in which the green line indicates to a buy signal as MACD line blue crosses above the signal line orange. Meanwhile, the yellow line shows a sell signal as MACD line blue crosses below the signal line orange. Next, we will proceed with the graph of Relative Strength Index or RSI. The blue line interprets as a sell signal as RSI line is above 70 and moves down crosses below overbought line. Meanwhile, red line shows a buy signal as RSI line is below 30 and moves up crosses above oversold line. In the stochastic indicator, the graph shows a buying signal as %K line is above %D line in oversold range below 20, in which you can see in the year of 2016 and 2017. Meanwhile, in the year of 2019 and 2020, the indicator shows a sell signal as %K line is below %D line in overbought range above 80. Therefore, sell signal indicates to a overbought stock, while buy signal leads to a oversold of Dutch Lady stock. According to the first quarter of 2017 and 2018 of William R indicator, the graph shows a buy signal as William R line is below oversold line of -80 and rises cross over the -80 line. Meanwhile, the graph shows a sell signal when the indicator moves above overbought line of -20 and falls below -20 line, in which you can see in the third quarter of 2019 and first quarter of 2020. Therefore, we can conclude that the four indicators of MACD, RSI, stochastic, and also William R, current investor is recommended to hold their share as price will increase, and future investor is recommended to buy stock as the price will increase soon. That's all from us, and I hope you enjoyed the entire video. Thank you and Assalamualaikum.